We just uncovered the one secret from Mario Balotelli's childhood that explains everything. This single untold incident reveals why his career was doomed from the start. Stick to the end for the shocking real reason he fell off the map. Mario Barwa Balotelli entered life in Palermo, not as a prodigy or a headline, but as a fragile child born into circumstances already collapsing under weight he could not carry. His biological parents, immigrants from Ghana struggling to survive, made a decision when he was barely 3 years old that would echo through every phase of his life. They let him go. The silence left behind by that absence did not fade with time. It hardened. It became part of his posture, his stare, his refusal to explain himself to anyone who demanded answers he did not yet have. Adopted by Francesco Balotelli and Silvia Balotelli in Brescia, he grew up in a country that called him Italian but did not always treat him as such. The name Mario Balotelli was spoken in classrooms, on streets, and later in stadiums, with a tone that often carried disbelief, suspicion, or mockery. He learned that talent could make people cheer, but it could not always make them accept. Football became more than a game because it was the only language that did not question his belonging. With a ball at his feet, he did not have to justify his presence. He did not have to soften his anger or translate his silence. He only had to run. Even as a child, coaches noticed something unsettling about him, something beautiful and dangerous at the same time. Mario Balotelli did not play like someone seeking approval. He played like someone settling a private argument with the world. Goals came easily, almost casually, as if scoring were an afterthought rather than an achievement. But alongside the brilliance was a temperament that resisted control. He did not bend easily to authority. He did not respond well to humiliation. And Italy, whether intentionally or not, offered him plenty of it. By the time he reached his teenage years, the whispers around his name had grown louder. Inter Milan saw in him what many others did not yet dare to articulate openly: a forward with physical power, technical elegance, and a striker's instinct sharpened by defiance. Signing for Inter Milan before adulthood, Mario Balotelli stepped into a world where expectations were no longer abstract. They were televised. They were monetized. They were weaponized. At 17, he was no longer just a gifted youth. He was a symbol, whether he wanted to be or not. Mourinho demanded discipline and obedience, and Mario Balotelli offered goals wrapped in unpredictability. On some nights, he looked untouchable, gliding past defenders with ease, striking the ball as though it owed him something. On other nights, he drifted, detached, or combusted under pressure, earning suspensions, fines, and headlines that framed him as a problem rather than a project. The tension between his potential and his temperament became a recurring spectacle. Those who believed in him spoke of generational talent. Those who doubted him spoke of wasted gifts. Mario Balotelli listened to neither camp. He learned early that praise was temporary and criticism relentless. When the Italian national team first called his name, it was not without controversy. Questions followed him into every camp, every press conference, every substitution. Could he be trusted? Was he mature enough? Did he care enough? These questions were rarely asked of players who looked different, spoke differently, or carried the same visible anger. But Mario Balotelli was never afforded invisibility. Every gesture was magnified. Every mistake confirmed someone's suspicion. Every success demanded explanation. The move to Manchester City was supposed to be liberation. England promised spectacle over scrutiny, chaos over conformity. Under Roberto Mancini, who both understood and indulged him, Mario Balotelli became a paradox that defined an era. He scored goals that shifted title races and missed chances that felt almost intentional in their audacity. He set off fireworks in bathrooms, trained with half-hearted seriousness, and delivered moments of genius that reminded everyone why patience had not yet run out. When he lifted his shirt to reveal the words, "Why always me?" it was not arrogance disguised as humor. It was exhaustion. It was a question thrown back at a world that insisted on seeing him as an anomaly rather than a human being. In England, the noise never stopped. But for a moment, the football spoke louder. He bullied defenders, punished hesitation, and played with a swagger that electrified stadiums. Yet even as medals accumulated, stability did not. Structure protected him only as long as he delivered. The moment the goals slowed, the narrative tightened its grip. Mario Balotelli was never allowed an ordinary slump. Every dip in form was framed as evidence of inevitable collapse. Italy watched from afar, waiting. And when the European Championship arrived in 2012, it was as though destiny decided to remind the world of what it had been flirting with and ignoring all along. Against Germany, under the weight of a nation that had never fully embraced him, Mario Balotelli produced one of the most iconic performances of the tournament. 2 goals, struck with ferocity and clarity, silenced critics and suspended disbelief. His celebration, arms stretched, muscles taut, face expressionless, was not joy. It was confrontation. It was a man daring the world to deny him again. For a brief moment, everything aligned. Mario Balotelli was no longer a question mark. He was an answer, a star forged through resistance rather than refinement. But moments pass, and systems reassert themselves. Expectations grew heavier. Scrutiny returned sharper. The same traits once romanticized as fire were again reframed as flaws. The discipline demanded of longevity never took root. Late arrivals, fractured relationships, and a growing distance between promise and preparation began to define his days. Returning to AC Milan felt like a homecoming, written by nostalgia rather than logic. The goals returned in flashes, but the hunger no longer burned with the same intensity. Injuries interrupted rhythm. Criticism drowned out encouragement. The world moved quickly, and Mario Balotelli seemed suspended between who he had been and who he was expected to become. His transfer to Liverpool was framed as redemption, but it unfolded as isolation. The Premier League, once a stage for his audacity, became a bench from which he watched relevance slip away. France, Turkey, Switzerland followed, each move quieter than the last. Jerseys changed, headlines shrank. The outrage that once surrounded his name faded into indifference, a far crueler verdict. Once compared to legends, he now existed as a reference point for lost potential, a cautionary tale told without empathy. Yet within these years of exile, moments of magic still surfaced, reminders that the talent never left. It simply learned to survive without applause. Now older, carrying the weight of years spent under a microscope, Mario Balotelli remains an unresolved figure, not a tragedy scripted by a single mistake, nor a villain deserving erasure. He is a study in what happens when brilliance grows without shelter, when identity becomes a battleground, when a child is asked to become a symbol before learning how to become whole. His story does not end with redemption or ruin. It lingers, uncomfortable and unfinished, resisting the simplicity of lessons. Because Mario Balotelli was never just a footballer rising and falling. He was a mirror held up to a sport and a society that celebrates talent loudly but nurtures it selectively. He was proof that ability can open doors but cannot always keep them open, that resilience forged in survival does not always translate into stability. And as time continues to move forward, his name remains suspended between what was seen, what was misunderstood, and what was never fully allowed to be. Tell me which club you think failed him the most. Let me know if he ever truly got a fair chance. Follow for the next real story they never wanted told. Drop your take on his greatest unfulfilled talent in the comments.